many of the nonprofits and businesses who claimed it. Congress created the ERTC on a bipartisan basis in the CARES Act. We asked the IRS to stand up a new refundable credit at the same time that the agency was working remotely because of the pandemic and sending economic impact payments to every taxpayer. The credit nevertheless provided absolutely critical support for establishments that were closed down or restricted by government orders to protect public health. And because of that, and the other pandemic aid programs like the Paycheck Protection Program, our economy bounced back faster and stronger than any of our peers. But I recognize that the ERTC has faced immense challenges and has been a burden so far to too many entities that it should have, instead of helping them. And one of the lessons is that the IRS simply did not have the resources to properly administer this credit. They could not accept electronic forms. They did not have enough employees. Their systems were outdated and overburdened. That's exactly why Democrats passed the Inflation Reduction Act and reversed over a decade of Republican cuts to the agency. And the results are clear. The IRS just yesterday reported that they were able to add new staff to address the surge of filings and clear the background of old claims, giving them the ability to focus on new claims and fraud mitigation. So, Ms. Sippel, can you talk about whether the increased resources for the IRS provided by the Inflation Reduction Act are helping nonprofits and businesses to get the help they need from the agency, and whether you believe that cutting these funds for the agency would hurt taxpayers and hinder their ability to smoothly claim ERTC and other credits?
What I would say is, yeah, certainly the backlog, we were dealing with unprecedented crises, certainly with the pandemic, that's the understatement. And more IRS resources means more ability to process applications, to provide guidance, to answer questions. We certainly recognize that the changes in the guidance were the result of efforts to try to swiftly address an unprecedented crisis. So having more hands on deck, if you will, certainly makes that process, the odds of that process going more smoothly, certainly increases that quite a bit. So extra resources at the IRS, we think, is certainly a very strong and important aspect of making the program run smoothly now and in the future.
And let me address a specific issue, which is that the businesses are required to file a 941X form with the IRS on paper rather than electronically. Fortunately, the IRS has said that they expect Form 941X to be eligible for electronic filing starting next year. It's a common sense improvement made possible by the resources that Democrats provided to the IRS under the Inflation Reduction Act. So could you talk about how electronic filing will help nonprofits and businesses claim the ERTC and make other amendments to their quarterly taxes moving forward?
Certainly. I mean, that electronic filing speeds up the process exponentially. And we were actually able to file electronically. I was not aware of the point made that the IRS prints out the forms, but we filed our form electronically. Our process went smoothly. We had our credit back within 8 weeks. So we've seen firsthand that it can work very well. And I think the more the process can be streamlined and remedies like electronic filing, clearer guidelines, more consistent guidelines from the outset, making sure that things are simple so that as many organizations, eligible organizations, can take advantage of this as possible. That's all really, really important.
I heard from all of you about the unscrupulous vendors who've targeted the small businesses. You also so eloquently talked about that. And it pressured them to apply for tax credits that they may not qualify for just so that they could collect this commission. I heard from CPAs that this problem is pervasive, and unlike the types of fraud we saw with other pandemic programs, oftentimes the applicants making the improper request for aid are doing so with no ill intent, but simply because they were misled. And I heard that the IRS is distributing information to make sure that we do not have these fraudulent claims and that we can identify them earlier. And I certainly hope that that can help in this process. And I yield back.
And the chair recognizes herself.